Blessed day, guys, and peace be upon you this morning. So in this video, we're going to go through layer 3 switch overview, or just a multi-layer switch overview, okay? And I'll open Google spreadsheet and let you know that today we're beginning our class on routing technologies. So guys, we've done switching and basic configurations. So today we're starting routing technologies. And to start with the routing technology, we need to understand multi-layer switch, okay? Because multi-layer switch is both a switch and a router, okay? All right. So guys, a multi-layer switch. And in this case, we're going to use 3650 24 port switch, okay? 3650, okay? When you click on the devices here and you come to switches, there are two multi-layer switches. There is a 3560 and 3650. In this series of training, we'll be using 3650, okay? All right. So I'll delete those and let's proceed. So I have already highlighted steps that you're going to follow to achieve these objectives, okay? All right. So in our guide here, multi-layer switch overview. Remember, multi-layer is got a switch and a router. It can perform both switching and routing capabilities, okay? So let's understand what we're going to do here. In this demo here, we're going to learn how to enable routing and to assign IP address to multi-layer switch interfaces, okay? Just the basic demo, okay? We enable routing because we want it to perform both routing and switching. By default, multi-layer switch is configured to act like a switch, but it's upon us to make it act like a switch and a router. So we need to enable routing on these multi-layer switches, okay? All right. So step one, draw the necessary topology, decorate comment. Then you're being told here, choose a 3650 layer 3 switch, okay? All right. So let's go to step two, power on the multi-layer switches. Guys, these multi-layer switches, they're always they are always off. They don't have power supply connected to them. So it's upon us to turn them, to power them on. For example, if I click on that multi-layer switch, then I come to CLI, you see, the device must be powered on, okay? So just click OK and come to physical tab of the multi-layer switch, and you see this is a power port, this is a power port. So we need, it's upon us to insert the power supply here. So just drag this on. You see this AC power supply, drag it and put it there. Come to this switch and drag AC power supply and put it there and close. Okay, so we're done with the first step. The second step. So the first step is always to, if you want to operate the multi-layer switches, the first step is always to power on the multi-layer switches in case you're using 3650. But for the other one, it's always powered on by default, okay? So make sure you power on the multi-layer switches before you can initiate any operation, okay? All right, so let's go to number two, connect cables and enable IP routing on the multi-layer switches. So we need to connect cables. So let me just choose the automatic, just click on the cables and choose automatic cable connection to router to the switch, router to the switch, okay? All right, so let's go back, and we have been told here, connect cables and enable IP routing on the multi-layer switches. Remember, I said that by default, multi-layer switches comes with the only switching technologies by default. So it's upon us to enable a routing on these multi-layer switches, okay? Although it can perform routing and switching, but by default it acts it's a switch, okay? So it's upon us to make it a both switch and a router, okay? So how do we do that? How do we enable IP routing on both layer switches, on both layer 3 switches? You just go to the layer 3 switch, you come to CLI, and you'll find something like this. Just say no and say enable config And this is just a simple command to enable routing on a multi-layer switches. You can just say IP routing. That's all. That's all. Make sure the first step is always to power on the device, then enable IP routing. Then if you come back to this one also, come to CLI, I say no, enable config T, IP routing. We have enabled routing on the multi-layer switches. Very, very simple. Then when you go here, number 4, identify and configure layer 3 interfaces to be used. Okay, use no switch port command to make it a layer 3 interface. Like I said, that these switches comes like a layer, just a normal layer 3 switch, layer 2 switch. Okay, but now it's upon us to make them act like a router. So by default, all the ports is just like a switch ports. We cannot assign them IP address. So we must make them a layer 3 interfaces before we can assign IP addresses to them. Okay. So the first thing I'll do, I'll come to this router and turn on these interfaces. Just click on this one and click on, and come this one and click on. So you see they are green. So this one will eventually turn green. Okay. So like I'm saying that this switches comes by default like a normal layer 2 switch. So all the ports are just switch ports. You can't assign IP address to them. So let's make these ports to be layer 3 interface. So you just check which port is connected to the router or which port you want to assign IP address. For example, it's this port, which is gig 01 on this side, also gig 01 on this side. So it's upon us to make them layer 3 interface. Okay, we've identified them, so we need to configure them to be layer 3 interfaces. So we just go here and you say interface gig 1/0/1, this one. Okay, and you hit enter. You just say no switch port. If I can just try IP address and assign 10.10.10.255.255.2.2.0. You see, invalid input detected because it's still a switch port. So let's turn it to be a layer 3 interface. How do we do it? We just use a simple command, no switch port, and we hit enter. Okay. Alright, so if I can just say IP address, we now assign IP address in this range. Okay, IP address 192.168.1.2, let's make it a 2, then 255.255.255.0, and you see now it is picking IP address. Then do right. We come back to this switch and turn this to be layer 3 interface. Let's say interface gig 1/0/1, no switch port. Then you send an IP address IP add to be 192.168.2.2 at 255.255.255.0. Exit and do right. Okay, so we are done with step 4. Identify and configure a layer 3 interfaces to be used. Assign IP address to the layer 3 interfaces plus the router. So we have done assigning IP address to the layer 3 interfaces. So let's do it to the router. So for example, for the router, this is gig 00 and the other one is gig 01, I believe. Yes, gig 01. So gig 00, if I come here and say gig 00, just click it. And let me try to assign IP address from here, 192.168.1.1. Okay, that's okay. Then you go to gig 01 and assign IP address 192.168.2.1. Yes, so that's done. We've assigned IP address to switch interfaces and the routers interfaces. So the final step is to test ping between the two multi-layer switches and the router. So we're going to test ping from this switch to this router and from this switch to this router. Okay, all right. So I go to this switch and try to ping end first. ping 102.168.1.1. Yeah, it's pinging. You can see it's pinging. Okay, so let's go to this multi switch and ping 102.168.2.1. Ping. Okay, all right, it's ping. So guys, that's the simplest way to go through an overview of a multi-layer switch. The first thing is always to choose the right multi-layer switch that you want to use. Then if it is 3615, make sure to power on the switch, right? Then you connect cables and enable, this is very, very important, enable IP routing on the switches. If you don't enable this one, it will never work. Number 4, you have to identify the ports that you want to configure as multi-layer switches, multi-layer in layer 3 interfaces, and use this command to make it a layer 3 interface. Okay, and you assign them IP address and others now follows. So guys, thank you so much, and I will let you know that we've done number 1 partly. So we are going to do layer 3 EtherChannel. Remember we did layer 2 EtherChannel. Here you can see them, PHP, LCP and on mode. So we are going to do all of them in the next video. Layer 3 EtherChannel. So thank you so much guys. I believe this video has really helped you now know how to go understand the basic knowledge about or overview of a layer 3 switch. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share with friends, and drop a comment of encouraging below. Thank you so much, and let's see you again in the next class. Bye.